The embargo on Fallout 76 is finally released. Now new information and video is flooding into the internet, and people who are super hyped are probably less hyped. People who knew it was going to be a shitfest are sitting there saying, "We told you so." And everyone else in between is kind of like, Red Dead Redemption 2. On the 11th of October, Papa Pete Hines said, "Our developers take things like lore and canon seriously. And if they're going to do something, they're going to make sure that there's a real and defensible reason for it. We have proven with Elder Scrolls games, we are willing to say, well, lots of people will say things happen one way, and the opposite or something else could entirely be true."
What?
So there's no question that we've gone back to change things to fit what developers have wanted to do and not be beholden to something that somebody wrote 20 years ago, even in franchises that we created like the Elder Scrolls. Yeah, that worked real well for Marvel when they had Marvel Now, right? You know, when they rewrote everything. People really took well to that, didn't they? It was a real fun time. We all stopped buying comic books. It was great. So basically what Pete Hines was saying right here, yeah, we're just going to change whatever the hell we want to do what we please. I mean, really, what do you expect? It's Bethesda. They don't care. Okay, they don't care. They'll get their money, so it doesn't matter. All right, they've been playing the same goddamn engine longer than some of us have been alive. The creation engine has been creeping around like that decrepit fucking uncle that won't die, and he's creepy as shit. Point being, this is to be expected. Bethesda sits there and copies mods from modders and then re-releases them on the Creation Club and sells them. So why is anyone surprised that Fallout 76 just takes canon and throws it out the fucking window? The only thing Pete Hines knows about lore is that he was a character on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Lore.
Okay, so don't even bother texting this man to ask him about lore. He will say one thing to you, and one thing only. Where did I put that screen cap? Because it's fucking brilliant. Pete Hines at his best. Pete Hines Ultra Instinct. I McSmoothie says to Pete Hines, as far back as 2017, Pete Hines has been saying this. Now, children, why does Fallout 4 break pre-established lore? Pete Hines writes back, I'm not the lore guy. Yeah. Remember, Pete Hines plays games on consoles usually, not PCs. So he really doesn't give a rat's ass about lore. He doesn't give a rat's ass about mods. Pete Hines doesn't give a rat's ass unless Todd Howard tells him to. McSmoothie comes back again. Who is the lore guy? Pete Hines says, if there was a mistake, then you'll just have to forgive whomever it was for making the mistake. My apologies on their behalf. I McSmoothie writes, thanks. Now tell Todd Howard to let Obsidian make the next Fallout. Poop emojis, devil heads. Pete Hines goes, good talk. Thanks for stopping by. That was a good talk, Pete. Why the fuck don't you guys let somebody else make the Fallout games for a change and just stop making crap? Because you guys don't know what you're doing anymore, let alone care. And they just sit there like, let's try this, and this, and steal a couple mods from modders. Notice how, like, when modders made Skyrim Online, which was years back, it was in development, and now all of a sudden we have Fallout 4 Online. Oh, excuse me, Fallout 76. Is that not weird to anybody but me? Okay, whatever. So in typical Bethesda fashion, they've botched their own lore. So the Redditor Baffadel put out a pretty big and concise explanation of how many times Bethesda has retconned or rewritten lore in the Fallout series. So he mentioned the discrepancies of Jet being kind of put into recent Fallout games when it wasn't invented until 2200s. The fact that super mutants were on the East Coast, I also agree with, was fucking odd, but it was just like, God, what are you gonna do? It's Bethesda. Ghouls not needing water, etc. Pete Hines and Bethesda said they're going to explain why the Brotherhood of Steel is in the East Coast so early on. This should be quite interesting. But then again, when you own the IP, you can rewrite any fucking history you want. Remember? Look what Disney did to Star Wars. Everything that happened in the books, everything that Dark Horse Comics did, it's gone, doesn't matter. Knights of the Republic, it's gone, doesn't matter. Disney's gonna have a whole new lore. Because when you own it, you can just do what you want. And that's exactly what Bethesda's doing. I think they do shit and then like they get caught and the fans are like, why is it like this? And then they're like, oh God, what, really? These people, oh great, now we have to come up with a reason why it's happening. Fuck. He even says the reason people are so passionate about the lore is not only because consistent universe helps people be more immersed, but because most of these retcon change lore by Fallout's original creators, which gets really touchy to the older fans who started with the Interplay and Black Isles, Fallout 1 and 2. Listen, Bethesda doesn't care what the people who used to like Fallout want. So right there, it's kind of sad that Baffadil said this, but it's pointless. If Bethesda cared what the fans wanted with Fallout, Fallout 4 would have been a different game. Fallout 76 probably wouldn't exist. What Bethesda cares about is money now, not quality. If Bethesda cared, I think the creation engine would have been annexed by now and they would have came up with something of their own that was new and better, or they would have gone to another company and used theirs. But no, instead they keep hammering out crap from the creation engine. It's like a really old junk car that your father won't let go of, and he keeps buying pieces to keep it running. Some sort of Frankensteinian creature barreling along into the future. Nothing short of a relic of a bygone era, past long since forgotten, except for the embarrassment attached to you, because you are unfortunately forced to live in this hellish nightmare. He continues to say, by the time this game came out in the lore and the timeline, the Brotherhood of Steel barely existed and was exclusively in the Lost Hills of California. Yet there are notes mentioning them in Fallout 76. Whoops! Don't bother Papa Pete, he's not the lore guy. Almost all lore up into the events of Fallout 2 and 3 with the Brotherhood of Steel take place almost exclusively in California, with ranking leaders having to make petitions just to go on expeditions to facilities even within California. The earliest known activities was only in California around 2134, the Brotherhood of Steel being in West Virginia in the early 2102 should be downright implausible, if not impossible. The implied canon is that they were still hibernating in their bunker in Lost Hills until 2150, after they went on their expedition from the Mariposa directly south to their new base in 2077. Note the Brotherhood of Steel were not created by Bethesda, so this is overstepping into original Interplay Black Isles lore and retconning Fallout 1. Yeah, makes sense. Remember, Bethesda, they don't have respect for much of anything in my opinion. They don't have respect for the fans. We're still in the creation engine. They take ideas from modders, remake them, and then sell them on the creation kit. The creation club. It's surprising that anyone sitting here is surprised by the fact that Bethesda would do this. Why are you surprised? They put out a trailer for the Elder Scrolls 6 at E3. The game isn't even in production yet. It isn't even in post or pre-production yet. I mean pre-production, you know what I mean? It isn't. They just did this trailer to get people hyped. So that way when Fallout 76 comes out, and if it tanks, everyone will sit there and go, well, Elder Scrolls 6 is on the way, so we can look forward to that. Just to keep you nibbling on the lore long enough so Pete Hines and Todd Howard can reel in your money. And everybody is just fucking fine with it. That's the funny part. Maybe I'd feel differently if they flew me out to go to the special release for Fallout 76 and I got to hang out with all the big YouTubers and go walk around the fake vault and have some cookies and cake and smiles. You know, oh, the game's not bad, you know, it's not bad at all. This was a lot of fun. This is interesting. It was nice to have this experience. I will now talk about it on YouTube and everyone will be like, that was cool. Bethesda's a great company. They make good products that are fucking broken. As I said before, if Bethesda made a car, they'd be out of business. But nobody gives a rat's ass when I say that. I'm the villain. I'm the bad guy. Oh, not to mention the game kind of runs like ass on the Xbox One X right now. What does it run at 70% of 4K? So then it's not really 4K. How do you call it 4K gameplay if it's 70% of 4K? It doesn't make sense. And the overall feeling isn't great. It's a mixed bag of people who are basically be hyped for anything because you know how it is. That's the gaming industry now. You get the people hyped, they'll stay hyped no matter what the hell happens. Todd Howard could come to some of these people's houses and slap their mother in the face with a Fallout 76 box and wink at them. And the guy would still go, I'm so hyped for this game. You don't even know, Todd. Can I smell your fingers? Because it touched the box. Overall, in the Xbox One X, where I think is the only place you could play this right now, the preview build, it's a little lackluster.
cupboards, the hotel and the uncanny caverns, the visual signature changes radically. But the fact is, the technology in this build is struggling to realize these concepts. The textures, for example, are often quite low resolution in this build, glaringly so, and it's hard to avoid the sense X's larger pool of memory could be pushed to produce better results. On the plus side, texture filtering runs at a high level of anisotropic filtering. Up to 16 times AF would be a reasonable estimate here, but again the concern here is the texture quality, which doesn't really stand up at 4K resolution in this early build. All told then, world detail is great at a distance, but aspects like shadows and textures aren't holding up at this point. Some of this could be fixed come release, notably the pop-in. Other parts of its design stay in place from Fallout 4, including the lack of shadows while indoors, which suggests for now that's how it may stay by release. It begs the question, how much of a performance hit would boosting the texture quality or shadows incur to Xbox One X? The premise of the game carries some explanation for this. It presents the world just after nuclear war. While the buildings are intact, radiation levels are at a high. An exaggerated bloom is seemingly used to represent that. The effect is heavy and unnatural, and even bright patches of soil bleed light onto foreground objects. It creates a surreal, hazy effect the series has boasted since Fallout 3, but it's especially pronounced this time. Is this how we want Fallout 76 to look though? Well, that bloom effect is a big visual feature, but arguably it's overdone in places. Take the hotel for instance. The pairing of white walls and heavy bloom means the entire scene is completely oversaturated. Intentional or not, it doesn't look quite right, and with the low grade textures and shadows, it's one of the weaker looking areas of the preview build.
But who knows, maybe the next beta will be better. A lot of people are screaming that. This is just a preview build. Why are people complaining to complain? And it's like, oh, stop defending Bethesda. Name the last game Bethesda put out that Bethesda themselves made that was actually low on the bug spectrum. And the answer is you can't. I cannot remember a single Bethesda game I've ever played that wasn't a buggy mess. It was funny years ago, but it's not funny now. You know, it's just not. Other companies catch hell for putting out a game with bugs. But for some reason, Bethesda, it's just like everyone's fine with it. And I can't. I can't even with this. I'm sickened. I spent my day watching all this crap of Bethesda, reading stuff. And then as soon as I start recording, I forget everything. And then I remember, then I get sick of it. I'm like, I'm hungry. I'm hungry and disgruntled. You know what it's like to walk a cute dog and have women pretend like you don't exist? I'll say that for the podcast. Now on that note, I'm the hell out of here. Rate, comment, subscribe, so choose to. If not, the hell with it. Because you know me, I can't ask anyone to give more of a shit than me in the age of apathy. But if you so choose to follow me, you do know, as you have seen, that basically you guys are the only thing that keep my head above the water. As YouTube's algorithm changes, as I upset people who have more followers than me and I get mass flagged, or unfairly copyright struck and they take all the revenue. Listen, I don't care about the money, but I do care when it goes to Twitch dots. I'd rather nobody gets it that point. But that's another struggle for another day. Adios, muchachos. I had to find some food. I'm starving.
All you need is smiles. Lots and lots of smiley smiles. Your sweet pink mouth goes north, not south, and just smile. All you need is smile. Hey, smile.